Well, good morning, everybody. As we start off this Friday, much of the United States is preparing for two high-impact storm systems that will be coming across the country, all within the next, 6 to 7 days. The first one today being this deep low we've watched over the last week, kind of slide along California, and then eventually come out here into the Central Plains. And by later on today, the center of this low will be somewhere over Iowa. And as it draws in just a lot of very strong winds, some of them out of the west here on the backside, very moist air out of the Gulf of Mexico, and very cold air on the northern side. We're going to set up just a multi-hazard storm system. This has been the one we've been covering all week. The severity of the threat from this is very high today. We'll talk about that in just a few moments, but I want to make you aware that the second system we're watching is here. By the weekend, it'll be coming into the Pacific Northwest, dumping a lot of snow, and then it will come out into the plains and produce a very similar looking system, although coming from a different trajectory, so there will be some differences. But that'll be next Tuesday for the central United States, that we're going to have to watch this one carefully. So looking at the latest all hazards weather map, this entire area covered in through here has all got high wind watches, high wind advisories, or a high wind warning. This color through here represents red flag warning, high wind watches, and so we have the risk of blowing sand, dust, and fires, and then just strong synoptic scale winds around this system. We now see those stronger winds through parts of Montana, where we do have some winter weather advisories here, and throughout Wyoming. But the shade of color you see here, this is a blizzard warning for parts of South Dakota and getting over into Minnesota. It's surrounded by winter storm warnings and a weather advisory, and this is just the first of two big snowfall events that'll hit this area. And again, that's an area that is covered in snow right now, at least this section of it. We'll then watch in the next system, which already has winter storm warnings out for parts of the Cascade Mountains, and we'll see that one coming in over the weekend. So highly dynamic, two systems in a row, plenty of momentum in these systems. They're being supplied with an abundant amount of moisture, and there's nothing really slowing either of them down. They're going to reach their maximum potential. So the latest data here from the Storm Prediction Center today, they've increased the area over which they've got a moderate risk of severe storms here. That is the 5th out of 6th categories that the Storm Prediction Center uses, and also down here in parts of the Mid-South. The Storm Prediction Center, just to be very clear, is the absolute best in the business. All right, I don't even want you to think about what I'm going to do here as trying to go over the top of them. But I'll be concerned a bit farther into central Illinois today. That area right in through there, I think will have the risk from two different storm types coming through this area, and may even be able to maybe bridge these two regions and really increase the risk here. And the Storm Prediction Center throughout the entire day will be monitoring this. So go to spc.noaa.gov. Again, tremendous respect for what those people do. They are the best in the business. Then remember, this system will have another day to it, and tomorrow, as the warm sector pulls into New England, they've increased in Pennsylvania and New York the risk for stronger storms as well. Now, to take a look at this, I want to show you the wind field first from the high-res NAM. This starts off at 7 o'clock this morning, and you'll watch this low rapidly deepen as the primary front, there's actually several fronts to this system, but as the primary front comes sweeping across the plains here. Now, on the northern side, a good strong pull on cold air. We're going to watch for the blizzard conditions to develop here tonight. But the most important thing to be keeping an eye on is how the winds across Illinois and Iowa and down here into the Mid-South, how they back. And what that means is we're going to watch them to see if they can turn even closer into the low. In other words, have more of a southeasterly component with time. And what that's going to do is that's going to set up the wind shear environment in this area for rotating storms. Now, this storm system rips through with those strong winds, and then you're going to see it go over the Great Lakes, at least the southern, like almost right over Chicago. Snow comes in on the backside of this as we go through tonight into tomorrow, and then it pulls into New England with those strong winds. And then there's high pressure, and it comes in, and by Sunday, we're already calmed back down in this area. But then we're going to watch the next system, which is right in through here, a little clipper out ahead of it. We're going to keep a close eye on this next system coming through. So the instability with this is going to build. So this is this afternoon, getting into this evening. We see that the CAPE values here, according to service-based CAPE in the European model, will be climbing up here above 1,000 joules per kilogram. The forcing will be so strong with this that we don't need to see more to get these big storms to rip through this particular area. One of my main reasons as to why I would increase throughout Illinois is this map here. What this features at about a mile above our heads is what we call the low-level jet. And the winds in here, as you can see, are above 50 miles an hour and maybe approaching some places closer to 70. We then have the jet stream level winds over this, but most severe weather outbreaks, have a very well-defined low-level jet. And so we're watching tonight for that particular feature to kind of pull through, and it's going to produce a very fast-moving line of storms that's going to cross Illinois, get into Indiana, maybe faster than you could drive it. I've actually chased storms that I'd never been able to catch up to because they move faster than I could on the interstate. So we're going to watch how quickly these come rolling through this area. But I just want to remind you that the threat for this rotating storms, keep an eye on this area today. Severe storms capable of producing tornadoes, large hail, severe straight line winds. Same thing for down here in parts of the Mid-South. So we can stitch all that together. We're going to start off at 7 a.m. on the high-res NAM. We already have seen freezing rain in this particular area, snow developing on the backside of this in South Dakota. So this is 1 o'clock this afternoon. And by the time we get to about 4 o'clock, we're going to be watching for isolated convective events in Mid-South, Illinois, and Iowa. Here's the main front. And what we'll see is from 5 o'clock into 6, this is where what we call the QLCS, the quasi-linear convective system, comes through. And that is going to move quickly. So if we just kind of get this 6 p.m., 7, 8, 9, so that's going to cross Illinois in about 3 hours, which is about the same amount of time it takes to drive across Illinois on the interstate here. And then that'll get into Indiana in the overnight hours, spread into Ohio, and then it'll lose some of its energy getting into the morning. This is very common. But then we're going to watch it kind of reinvigorate in the northeast tomorrow. And notice what will happen here is on the back side of it where all that snow is, this is 6 p.m. tonight, heavy snows in South Dakota, parts of Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and that curls around. So we're going to have severe weather followed by snow showers after this. Now to the south, just want you to keep an eye on this. We still continue to see that QLCS, that line, coming through parts of the Mid-South, hitting same area that was hit about a week ago, a little farther to the north of it, right in through this corridor here. So we need to watch out for this carefully. Now that system rolls through, high pressure comes in behind it, and then all of our attention goes here. You're going to see at the end of this animation a little clipper coming out of Alberta into Saskatchewan, delivering some light snow. And we're going to watch the rest of Sunday as this low comes into the Pacific Northwest. So you saw some snow in the Midwest. This is what we're expecting out of the first system. There will be a few places in through here that pick up 4 to 10 plus inches of snow. Same thing through parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin, right over just north of Green Bay. Remember, on my color bar, I start blues at 4 inches, so we kind of get an idea where that is. But I told you there was a system following, and starting on Monday through Tuesday, the models have continued to hone in. They've been very consistent with the next system putting down a lot of snow in this area. And again, we do have the potential here of going well over a foot of snow. And this is an area that has got a tremendous amount of snow on the ground right now. We've talked about that spring flooding threat constantly. So we're going to watch out for what this could possibly do. To show you that one, I'm going to flip over to the comparison between the GFS and the European model. So let's get this queued up. So we've already seen through Sunday. That's when the high pressure comes in. You got the clipper rolling right through here. It's in both models on Sunday. And then that one moves to Ontario and Quebec. And now the next system gathers. Now before it comes through there, just note, from Sunday into Monday, this one is adding a lot of snow throughout the west. Just keep an eye on the Pacific Northwest, the Cascades and Northern Rockies. And then it spreads snow from Nevada to Utah to Wyoming, and that sets up the trajectory for the low to follow a path like this. So this is Monday afternoon and evening, getting into Tuesday morning, Tuesday midday, Tuesday evening. We're going to keep a very close eye on this whole region for strong to severe storms and another blizzard here. Several inches of snow possible. It's in both models. That's Tuesday night, the 4th. That system spreads through the Great Lakes, again brings a large warm sector into New England. The front fizzles out as it tries to come across, the mid-Atlantic down to the southeast, but more storms down here by Wednesday night. And then that system clears. But it leaves a lingering frontal boundary here, which means we're going to watch this area going into late next week. And that's why we see more storms sitting on that frontal boundary. So that gets us out a full week in this forecast using the 0Z run. And we need to put together a few maps to show you what the main impacts are. So 7-day forecast map of total snow in the west. This is not going to be a system that slams California like the previous. It hits the Pacific Northwest. So the Cascades here are picking up heavy snows, maybe some places over 30 inches. Northern Rockies, Central Rockies coming out of Wyoming. All right. If we look at this another way, probability of certain snow levels, this is the 10-day forecast for at least 3 inches. I don't think we have any surprises here. That's the probability of 6 inches. That's over 90% in this corridor. Now we step it up to 12, 90% chance of a foot of snow here according to the European model. And then as we go up to 18, we hone in on those 2 areas here and here, east of the Rockies, and then here in the Cascades. And just to show you what we could get in the Cascades, this is the probability of 2 feet, 90% chance here in Oregon's Cascade Mountains. Love this. Oregon needs all this moisture given the drought. You can also see what we're expecting. I mean, that is a 30 to 50% chance of 2 feet of snow here in South Dakota. And this is 36 inches. Okay, we've wiped that out, but we're still here. Looking at total precipitation, this is the probability of 1 inch over the next 10 days. Here's the probability of 2 inches over the next 10 days and 4 inches. So this is liquid equivalent. And this is the area we're going to watch most carefully for the heaviest rainfall right in through here, continuing to delay spring planting, spring field work. In today's report, I do cover what the month-to-date precipitation stats look like and compare this to the latest drought monitor. A couple areas I'm getting concerned about. Well, I have been concerned about Central Plains, Western Plains. The drought here just continues to get worse. Florida, the Mid-Atlantic, along the coast. Temperature-wise, this is top of mind for a lot of us right now. When will this pattern break? Because the month of March, everywhere that you see the number 131, is now having its coldest March on record, going back to 1893. And we've got colder air still behind each of these systems, which is why our frost map for the next 7 days shows everywhere in gray here where we're expecting a temperature at or below freezing. Now to look at those high temperatures, you're going to see highly variable day-to-day fluctuations. Here's today on Friday. That's Saturday. The cold air follows this. This is the snow event here. Then we get into Sunday. Another warm sector opens up ahead of the next system. There it is by Tuesday. That's the severe weather threat in this area. Again, please be watching out for this region. Big severe weather issue next Tuesday. And then another swipe at the colder air comes through. We look out there longer term. What I'm watching for, and I'm just going to play this for you, is any sense of a change in the pattern over Alaska or the West Coast first, because these deep troughs keep swiping through. That's the one midweek next week. We can't seem to shake the troughs in this area. There is a ridge building into the west. There's more moderate conditions coming in here, but that'll displace some of the cooler air east with time. And the good news is, if I just pause this, if you got a chance to watch last night's video, the newest long-range Euro kind of squashed the thought of having deeper troughs in the west again out there mid-April. That's important. If we open this pattern up, it will break in mid-April. We talked about that in the in-depth report last night. But the temperature pattern over the next 15 days, this is the 5-day sliding window I like to show you. The only place it really hangs on to warm weather is parts of the southeast into the mid-Atlantic, and they even get a cool shot of air coming through the end of the second week of April. But the moderating pattern begins to show up here, and that's the top thing I'll be watching in terms of temperatures. This is all snow feedback here, and it may not be until late April, early May that this begins to fully melt, which is not good for this region. All right, one last thing to show you here. The week 2 precipitation anomalies are in line with that pattern. Drier, drier, drier. Where is it wetter? The south coming up to the mid-Atlantic. And this is the week 2 precipitation anomaly, so getting us out there to about the 14th of April. Okay, be very weather aware today if you are in this area. Have every resource you have available to keep an eye on the weather. And remember that there is a lot of other hazardous weather around just a severe weather threat. Fire here, blizzard there. And that's just 2 other regions. So please keep an eye on this today. And I look forward to talking to you all again after the weekend. Thank you.